All right, welcome everyone to the Introduction to the Year 2 project webinar. I'd like to properly introduce myself to all of you. So my name's Natasha. I'm quite new to the graduate team as our lovely Sophie is away on maternity leave. It's not that long ago that I was in your shoes thinking about my own Year 2 project, but hopefully I can use my experience from my time in the graduate program to really help develop this element of the graduate program to best suit your professional development so that you all find it really beneficial to your journey. So joining me on the webinar tonight is Kimberly Forbes. Kim leads our Pathways program and she has a large range of experience in developing people, and we're really lucky to have her supporting all of you with this element of the graduate program. So I'll get Kim to say a quick hello.
Thanks, Natasha. Hey team, so good to see you all, and thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm really looking forward to being here and sharing some hopeful pearls of wisdom and being able to support you as you navigate through this Year 2 project process.
Perfect. Thanks, Kim. We'll also hear from Nee Nguyen, who some of you may know. Nee works in our Burnie store and she was our Year 2 project winner last year. We're lucky enough to have her online tonight to talk to you all about her project and her experience. So Nee, you're welcome to say hello as well if you like.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me here tonight to talk to you guys about my experiences.
Perfect, thanks Nee. Just some quick housekeeping before we kick off. I'll just ask you all to keep yourself on mute, but please do turn your cameras on so that Kim and I can get to know you as well as we can in this virtual setting. Feel free to type any questions or comments into the chat as we go, and we'll try and answer them in a Q&A session at the end. Thank you to everyone for joining the call. It is a bit of a shame that we can't do this face-to-face and meet you all in person. That format will allow this session to be a lot more interactive. However, we've really tried to condense all of the relevant content into this session just to set you up for your project ahead. I should also mention that although your graduate program comes to an end after your 2 years are up, your employment contract with the store is ongoing. And we do hope that this is still just the beginning of a long career with Specsavers. As your career with Specsavers progresses beyond the graduate program, it does become increasingly important for you to be really proactive in driving your own personal and professional development. So the Year 2 project is really about giving you the opportunity to further develop your skills and your abilities to set you up for success in the next phase of your career. Also, you would have all received the workbook in an email that I sent through. So this resource is a really great guide to help you throughout your project. It might be something that we reference quite often in this session, so it's probably a good idea to have it open in the background. If anyone's not received the workbook, then please let me know and I will send it through again. So I know the last year of your career has probably really been focused around building your clinical competency and your confidence within the test room. But I'm sure most of you are all pretty proficient at this now. So now's really the time to sort of step outside the comfort of the test room and really apply what you've learned throughout your optometry career so far, and expand your knowledge and skills in areas where there's potential for further development to really make an impact and positive changes to yourself, your store, and your community. So as a quick overview, this is a practical, hands-on project with a set goal or outcome that you're seeking to achieve, opposed to a university-style academic assignment. The project should really support your own personal and professional development whilst aiming to deliver a positive outcome for your store. Over a period of 16 weeks, you will plan, implement, and present a project. During this time, you'll be guided and supported by your in-store mentors, your store team, and the Specsavers graduate team. At the conclusion of your project, you will submit a recorded presentation to share your project journey, the outcomes, and the benefits to you and your store. So many of you might be thinking, why do a project? What's the benefit to you? You partners on the call might be thinking, what's the benefit to the store or the partners? The project focuses on supporting graduate optometrists to build clinical, professional, and commercial excellence. We really hope to help you strengthen your skills in an area of your own interest to better support your own career goals. The key benefits of the projects include personal and professional development, both within and outside of the consulting room, utilising and further developing your skills, further clarity and insight into your career aspirations, and improved integration and collaboration between the clinical and retail side of optometric practice, and better relationships with the store team. It helps build a greater understanding of the business, including store operations, key business drivers, and patient experience, and optimization of systems, processes, and protocols to improve patient outcomes. So as an outline for you, the project timeline will look like this. There are these 6 key stages of the project. So as a guide for your project, these are the 6 steps. So step 1, find your focus area. Step 2, select a specific topic. Step 3, create a project plan. Step 4, implement the project. Step 5, collate results and report. And step 6, present your project. So for those of you following along with the workbook, this guide can be found on page 3. We'll now go through these steps in a little bit more detail to provide you with a bit of more clarity. So I'll pass over to Kim, who's going to talk to us about step 1, finding your focus.
Thanks, Natasha. Finding your focus is all about really taking the time to understand yourself and the direction of where you want to go with your career and professional goals, and ensuring that you are getting the most out of this project as absolutely possible. We're here to set you up for success, set you with the framework. However, the most sort of development and personal enjoyment that you're probably going to get out of it is by ensuring that you choose something that's the right focus and where you want to take yourself. Next slide, please, Tash. So before we start looking at where we need to go, it's really important to think about where are we now. So this is the time where we carry out some self-reflection, review your career journey so far within Specsavers as a graduate, start thinking about what's been working well for you, what hasn't been working so well, and some areas that you might want to focus on, and really honing in on understanding your strengths, your development areas, and where you want to take these focuses. Next slide, please. So what you can see here on the screen is what we refer to as a SWOT analysis. So some of you may be familiar with the term SWOT analysis, and it's outlined on page 5 and 6 in your workbook. So it's pretty simple. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, we talk about internal factors, so things that are actually relevant to us and what we are part of. So an example of a potential strength, and it could also be an area for development, would be communication, for example. Then we have opportunities and threats. So opportunities are external factors that that are either opportunities for us to grow and things that we can grasp on to grow. And threats are what we need to be aware of and understanding of to ensure that we can make sure we have the plans in place to overcome these so they don't impact our growth. So a few tips and tricks for, sorry, can you just go back? Sorry, Tash. A little bit more detail on each point of the SWOT. When you're looking at your strengths, asking yourself, what are things you're good at? What are you really proud of? What's gone well? And what are those standout qualities for you since you've been working as an optometrist? Weaknesses are time to be honest. None of us really like to have to self-reflect and understand those areas. However, it's so important for us to grow to ensure that we have great understanding and honesty of where we should focus our efforts. Think about the areas that you're lacking in, analyze all your skills, and think where you could best focus your efforts. And then the opportunities are about understanding your external environment and things that you can do within your store and areas that you feel that you can accomplish. And like I mentioned before, threats is all about being ahead of the game and ensuring that you understand what can prevent you from achieving your goals and what difficulties you might run into. And by pre-planning and having this process in place, and it enables you to be better prepared and ready for your further development. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, on pages 5 and 6 in your workbook, we have an outline of the SWOT analysis. So this is for you to, when you have some time, go through the overview of what the SWOT analysis is. And then with your, firstly by yourself, and then with your partners and mentors, etc., start filling in just a few points around each of these areas. Next slide, please. Then it's time to think about where you're going, and I'll hand back over to Natasha for this part.
Thanks, Kim. So the next step is to consider where you want to be or the direction you want to go in with your career. So what are your overall career aspirations? In the workbook on page 8, there's a reflective exercise that I recommend you go through in your own time. On page 8, there are some potential next steps you can consider as your goals. It's definitely not a definitive list. However, it's really designed to prompt you to think about how to keep yourself engaged within the profession and continue your ongoing development. So what career opportunities lie beyond the graduate program? I'm sure you may be familiar with the Pathways program. I might get Kim to touch on that in a minute, but there are other opportunities that might interest you beyond the graduate program. So for example, there's the opportunity for further education, pursue an area of interest, build on clinical expertise through further education, for example, pediatrics or contact lenses, anterior eye, glaucoma or myopia management. This could be something formal like doing a postgraduate course, a certificate that's offered by many different institutions like the ACO or the University of Melbourne, or something informal like self-directed learning and CPD events or forums with other optoms. You might be interested in behavioural optometry or, for example, a lot of optoms within Specsavers have pursued study in different areas of interest and applied their knowledge and skills in their Specsavers store and built a reputation in their community based on their experience. You might have bigger goals and wish to help the optometry team pilot new technology in store, or might even desire to work at support office such as myself. You might be interested in networking and in-region relationships and be interested in being an ambassador who assists in organising networking events in region. And there's also nothing wrong with focusing on continuing to build your variety of experience through ongoing clinical practice. Continue to develop in clinical expertise through deliberate practice, experience a new environment, by example, doing a store swap, learn from other experts by doing an external visit, local community involvement such as vision screenings or school screenings, or make a difference by doing an outreach program, and there are opportunities for that as well. So with this in mind, I suppose your first step on your path of the Year 2 project is to select an appropriate focus area that interests you. So there are 3 focus areas for you to choose from: leadership capabilities, leading clinical excellence, and professional ambassadorship. So I'm going to pass back to Kim to talk about the first of these focus areas, leadership capabilities.
Thank you. So as you can see, there's 3 great areas of focus for you to choose from here. And we've kept the ideas really broad so you can ensure that you're able to kind of turn it into what you want to do and make sure it's really relevant to what you and your store identify as development areas. But yeah, one of my favorite topics is around leadership capabilities. So really happy to be able to chat through that with you tonight. And what we've outlined here is it's leading a change management project, which is focused on both improving a key business growth opportunity and enhancement of team capability through development of the team and the store. So as you can see, there's a great opportunity here for you to really focus on different skills, because when we talk about leadership, it's not as simple as leading a team or a one-way thing. There's lots of different elements that contribute to building great leadership skills. So we'll focus on how to plan for changes, ensuring that we're remaining focused on what's important to the business and your development, how you identify these performance areas within your store, and also ensuring you're enhancing your people skills by collaborating and building your team. Now, of course, this is a great one if you're particularly interested in Pathway, as Pathway is all about learning how to lead a team and lead a business. So it's a great one for you to try. However, if you're just honestly at this point where you're like, I'm not too sure yet, it's also fantastic just to get a broad range of skills for you to work with. And just wanted to highlight as well that we've got 2 other topics. And this doesn't mean that it's only one topic that leads you into Pathway, because all of our topics provide you with great enhancement to skill set, great new set of and able to sort of lead the team. So this is just one of our offerings that will definitely set you up for success if you were to join Pathway and pursue a career in partnership. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks, Kim. Look, you might be more interested in leading clinical outcomes and efficiencies in store, and might be more inclined to lead a project focusing on the improvement of clinical efficiencies through implementing team training or focusing on enhancing the utilisation of clinical technology to improve patient outcomes. So this topic might be a little bit more ideal for you if you really care about clinical efficiency and would like to take a leadership approach to enhancing the clinical experience for optoms, retail staff, and for patients. You might be interested in this topic if you've noticed something new in store that isn't quite working well, whether that's a bottleneck at the pre-test or poor OCT scan quality or poor reliability of visual field test results. At Specsavers, we really invest in our technology to help enhance patient health outcomes and to provide our optometrists with the best technology to enhance your ability to detect and diagnose different ocular pathology. However, having the technology is one thing, and really being able to utilize this technology to the best of its ability is a different story if the equipment isn't quite being used to its potential. So if you're really passionate about clinical efficiency and store processes, then this might be the area for you. Or you might be more interested in the promotion of optometry and eye health, and might be more inclined to deliver a project focusing on increasing interprofessional collaboration in your community by implementing a networking, education, or collaborative event with healthcare practitioners in your region. So this topic might mean that you host a CPD night or an educational night for the optoms in your store. You could even extend that invitation to other optoms from nearby stores. You could reach out to GPs or pharmacists in your area to inform them of the equipment you have in store and the patient management abilities you and other optoms have in store to help build better referral relationships. This focus area would be most ideal for someone who really aspires to be a professional ambassador representing optometry within Specsavers and aspires to promote eye health and optometry. So I'm going to pass back to Kim again, who's going to talk about step 2, which is selecting your topic.
Thank you, Tash. Okay, so we need to start thinking about, now we're sort of thinking about our focus areas and getting a good understanding of where the project topic themes lie. Let's talk a little bit more about how we go about selecting the right topic for us. Next slide, please. So it's really important as a first step when looking at which particular focus area you'd like to work on in 2 things. Firstly, is this going to align with your career goals? Have you thought about where you want to go, and is this relevant for where it's going to take you? And the second part is, not only is it really important for it to, of course, enhance your development, however, we're really looking for that you've worked with your partners, worked with your other team members to identify an area that requires a focus in your store and is really relevant to the current state of play in your store. Next slide, please. And this is where it comes to setting objectives. So this will be really helpful in you when you're deciding what you want to achieve And when you're working through setting any kind of objective, you need to always ask yourself if your objective, if your topic meets these areas. So the first one is how important it is to be specific. So when you're focused on one particular area, you need to ensure that it remains specific to that area, remains specific to your development, and remains specific to the current store need. The area needs to also be measurable. And we're not only talking about here measuring a KPI within the business. There are many things that we can measure that are all outcome related. And as long as it's specific to what you're focused on, we really encourage you to think out of the box and not feel too concerned about the tangible outcome, but how you can actually articulate what's demonstrated as measurable. As when you do review these areas of focus, there's lots of different things you can work on. It also needs to be achievable, being aligned to what you want to do, and ensuring that when you're thinking about what does good look like in this area, what are we setting as things that we want to accomplish, these are achievable. You've got the right time, the right resources, the right support to make it happen. And relevancy. Am I being relevant to what I initially set out to work on? And finally, and when we talk about project planning in a little bit more detail, it needs to be timely. It needs to have a time measure for success, and this needs to be broken down into mini milestones that you can work towards achieving as you go through the process. Next slide. And finally, just to recap, project topic needs to tick these three things. Does this help me achieve my personal development needs and interests? So important. You've got to ensure that as you're going through this project, this excites you, it engages you, and you want to be doing it because you can see the advantage it brings to you. Does it help you with your professional goals, and can you see how it aligns to your career vision? And finally, am I ensuring that I'm assisting and enabling all the store opportunities that are presently present in our stores? Next slide. Okay, so to go a little bit more into project planning, I'll hand back over to Natasha.
Thanks, Kim. So at the core of a successful project is a thorough plan. A solid plan helps provide clarity and guidance. So even though we are likely to alter our plan as our project progresses, the time that you invest in creating a plan at the outset will really help keep you on track throughout the duration. You can think of this like taking a case history and during your patient consult. So you can complete the bulk of history at the start of your consult and come up with a preliminary differential diagnosis and formulate a plan for your consult. But as the eye test progresses, sometimes you can adapt your plan based on additional information from the patient and from your findings as you progress through your clinical test. So to help you with planning your project, I've included the following timeline. So this timeline begins with our webinar tonight. So in a few weeks' time, there will be a support webinar which aims to provide you with a better understanding of the focus area of your choice. So in these webinars, you'll meet different members of the professional development and optometry team who will really aim to help you understand the various different areas of optometry and provide you with support to help you understand the project focus areas better. You should identify which area of focus most interests you and attend the support webinar specific to that topic. You don't need to attend them all. However, if you're sort of on the fence about which area interests you more, you're more than welcome to join more than one session if you wish. Following this session tonight, I'll send around an email with the dates for the support webinars and registration so that you can attend one of those. The next step in the timeline is to submit your topic selection. So after the support webinars, you'll have a few weeks to reflect and discuss with your store partners and come up with a specific topic and a project plan. You'll need to submit your topic selection and your project plan. And following this, you'll be able to start implementing your project and making changes. So your project will run over the course of 8 weeks. So you'll be able to implement your plan and adjust it as you need to over this time. We recommend that you then cease collection of data and analyze the results, and then start preparing your presentation. So your presentations will all be due on the 2nd of August. So how are you going to achieve your objectives? So the purpose of the project is that there must be some intervention. You think about the most appropriate intervention. Is it a change to a system or a process, changes to behaviours, changes to communication? The intervention will look different depending on what topic you select and what your specific objectives are. And there'll even be many different approaches you could take to try achieve the same objective. Utilize the resources available to you to determine what interventions you could implement that could decide which is most suitable. One of the benefits of being part of a group like Specsavers is that there are plenty of people available to help support you, people available to help share ideas and help each other's businesses grow. If your store is not performing well in a particular aspect, and that's what you're aiming to improve, you can consider even looking at what other stores are doing and how they're doing it. Reach out to them and seek guidance on what they're doing differently. You can ask your CPC or your regional relationship manager for help with this if you need. For example, improve glaucoma detection through increasing the same-day visual field rates. This will likely involve a review of your current store process and introducing some improvements. Measurement of same-day visual fields and glaucoma referral rates, and be specific in your current and future state. Set a target that's achievable in the time frame. Or another example could be improve product knowledge and professional recommendations to help increase AOV. Lead a team training to improve team members' product knowledge, and a workshop that's effective or providing effective ways to provide professional recommendations. Relate it back to patients' lifestyles. You might target a specific product such as a coating or polarized lenses or lifestyle lenses, and measure the sales of this particular product and AOV before and after you implement your project. So now I'm going to pass back to Kim to talk a little bit about what does success look like for your project.
Thanks, Natasha. So I'm sure it's the question that everybody is asking. We've talked you through what this process looks like, what some ideas and how you can go about choosing what you're going to focus on. But what is it that we're actually looking for at the end, and how can you ensure that you make the best success of this project possible? Next slide, please, Tash. So on the screen here, you'll see what we define as the graduate capability. So throughout the business in Specsavers, we talk about capability, whatever your job role is, and this is what we have determined good looks like, and for you to help further enhance your career and development options. So we have owning your own development. So being able to identify what your development areas are and really taking ownership to drive those and ensure that continuous improvement and that you're demonstrating that growth. Everything we do at Specsavers is, of course, for our customers and our patients. So whatever your topic you choose, it's really important to ensure that the customer and the outcome for the customer is at the heart of everything that you do. And we'll be looking for you that you've incorporated them into your plans as you move forwards. Supporting business growth. We're a business that's constantly growing, and we've got this amazing opportunity in front of us where you've been afforded that to work on this process within your store. So of course, it's really important to ask yourself, how can I support this business growth? And as we mentioned before, with KPIs, etc., growth and results and outcomes are so many different things. So there's a lot for you to think about here. Teamwork and leadership. Are you collaborating with your team? Are you ensuring that you're influencing your partners? And are you really demonstrating that you are able to lead the initiative, whichever one that you choose? And finally, that you embrace and you lead change, and you also take others on that journey. Change pushes us out of our comfort zone, and not everybody always wants to change, and it can be a challenge when we're trying to work on a new initiative and others aren't on board. So we're really looking for how you ensure that your team are engaged and motivated with the changes that you want to make. Thanks, Tash.
All right, thanks, Kim. So now we're going to talk about the implementation and results collection for your project. So the initial steps prior to implementing change would include observing the current landscape and collecting some data to create your baselines in whatever field you choose. Then we suggest you start implementing some changes in store. The implementation stage of the project should run for about 8 weeks, and you should be actively collecting data as you go. Once the 8 weeks are up, you can then summarize the data collected and measure the impacts of your project. Once all the data is collected and summarized, it's time to prepare your presentation. All right, so for your presentation, you'll be provided a PowerPoint template to populate. You should talk through your project journey, outcomes for your own development and for your store, and your next steps. You'll be asked to create a simple presentation by recording your voice over the top of your PowerPoint slides. The presentation should go for no longer than 10 minutes per person. And we will collate the presentations and the judges will grade the projects, selecting the top 8 presentations. And then the finalists the top 8 will be asked to present their projects on a Zoom call just like this to the rest of the cohort, so that you can hear what your fellow graduates have achieved and potentially take away some suggestions that you and your store partners may implement in your store. After that webinar, the winners will be decided after listening to the live presentations. And now we have Nee online, and Nee's going to talk to us about what it was like for her experience with the projects, what her project was. So Nee, if you're online, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Natasha. Hi, everyone. My name is Nee. I work at the Specsavers store in Burnie. So last year I completed my grad project. There were 3 project topics available. The first was improving glaucoma detection through increasing same-day visual fields rates. The second was working with the clinical team to more effectively and consistently utilise one or more Medicare codes. And the last one was improving product knowledge and professional recommendations to increase AOV. Next slide, please. So I chose to do my project on improving product knowledge and professional recommendations to increase AOV. Next slide, please. Okay, so the goal of my project was to improve the store AOV by 10% from 2019. And because AOV is such a broad topic, I chose to focus mainly on improving uptake of the ultra clear super clean coating. So this made progress tracking more manageable. My secondary focus was to incorporate lifestyle questions in order to recommend lifestyle lens choices, such as different multifocal designs, as well as other lens options, such as polarizing, reactions, and height index to all of my patients. This way, once we successfully reach the goal with the AR coding, we would be able to continue increasing our AOV in other ways. Now, my project was completed during the worst stages of COVID, so we had to be mindful of the impact that COVID had on everyone, especially their financial situations. Working in an area with a low socioeconomic background, we had to ensure that glasses were suitable for the patient's everyday needs while still meeting their budgets. At the end of the day, we decided that it was all about educating patients. So even if the patient chose not to choose a lens option that day, they walked away well informed of what was available to them and were more likely to go ahead with it next time. Next slide, please. So overall, we managed to increase our AOV by $48 over the 9 weeks, which worked out to be approximately 16% increase from the previous year. Next slide, please. So our ultra clear super clean uptake increased by 5% from the previous year. So at the end of it, what did I do differently? I began asking more lifestyle questions during the tests. Everyone spends a lot of time on technology these days, whether it's computers, laptops, iPads, or phones, and pretty much everyone owns a phone now. So what I did was I showed each patient a sample of the ultra clear, super clean coating, and pretty much immediately they were quite surprised by how much of a difference it made. And from there, I just incorporated on how it would help them with their daily life. Next slide, please. So I chose this topic because I wanted the rest of the team to be involved in it. I wanted to do something that would make the dispensing journey easier for both the patient and the dispensing team. And while we were looking through the weekly sales reports with the retail director, we noticed that there was plenty of room for improvement with the AOV. Next slide, please. So I found that the project was a really good insight to the behind the scenes of how to run a store. I realised it wasn't as simple as just telling a patient that they needed glasses and they were left on their own. Initially, I thought that would have been easy and straightforward, but it's a lot more complicated than that. It was all about language and how you presented the information to the patients. So you had to explain it to them in a way that they would understand. And every patient has different ways of understanding different things. So whether it's you showing them a sample or whether you kind of explain to them how their daily life would be affected by certain things. Now, one of the biggest things I was asked was about the blue light filter. So it was a matter of explaining to them the difference between blue light versus digital eye strain, and showing them the coding and explaining to them how that bright backlight from laptops and screens can affect how tired their eyes are and how much strain they get, and then how much of the difference that the coding actually made. Next slide, please. So for this project, what I did was I set a 5-year goal, and as part of my goal, I decided I want to do pathways eventually. So I thought that this was a good chance for me to expand my horizons to learn about the dispensing side of optometry. Overall, I found that it helped me improve my suggestions to patients. Patients were more satisfied at the end of the eye test, and this showed in our maze reviews. It was also a good chance for me to bond with the patients and build rapport. So all it took was to spend an extra 5 minutes of your time to talk to them, listen to the needs, and work out a way that would help them with all their problems. Next slide, please. So this project here, we were able to improve the overall AOV for the store. We found that it was easier for the dispensing staff to recommend various coatings. Patients pretty much received double the education. As you know, most of the time things go through one ear and out the other. So it was good that they had that solid understanding of all the lens options available for them. Now, it also helped with our 3-way handovers. It was much smoother as the dispenser was able to get a grasp of what we talked about during the eye test and build on top of that. So in the end, we weren't always successful, but that was okay. The goal was to educate patients. So we wanted them to know that all the different lens options available for them and how that could help them, and that even if they didn't decide to go ahead with it today, they still had the opportunity to do it next time. Next slide, please. So any tips and advice for you guys? Next slide. Okay. So the first thing that you should do is to block out some time to sit down with your directors. They'd be more than happy to help with your project. So what I did was I blocked an hour with my retail director and we sat down, went through all the reports, because at the end of the day, this not only helps us, but it also helps them. The second thing, I highly recommend setting a 5-year goal. It really helps you decide on which topic to go ahead with, because you want to know where you want to be in a couple of years' time, whether you want to do pathways and own a store one day, whether you want to specialise in a certain topic such as glaucoma, children, myopia control, or sometimes even if you're just happy with where you are now, find out ways that you can actually contribute to the community and help your patients. And the last thing is it's all about trial and error. So trial the different ways that you talk to patients. For example, whether you use the anti-glare coding or anti-reflective coding, see what works best for them, show them samples. What works for one patient doesn't always work for the other. So try around a bit and you'll eventually get there. Okay, that's all done. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Nee, for talking to us about your project. I can't imagine what it would have been like to implement some changes during a very difficult time in store during the COVID, time. So well done on putting forward such a great project during that time. For everybody else, this slide is just to inform you guys of the key dates. Just as a reminder, all of these key dates are actually in the back of your workbooks. So have a look. You can reference them at any time that you need. After this webinar, like I said, you'll receive the registration for the support webinars. So I'll click on to the next slide. So these are the dates for the support webinars. Now, like I said before, you don't need to attend all of them. And at these webinars, we hope to have the subject matter experts, the guys from the optometry team who are really passionate about these different areas, to talk to you about what these different areas within optometry look like and help you understand what a project in these areas might look like, and go through what resources are available to you as well to help you with your project. So hopefully it'll be a really informative session to really help you build your skills in these areas. And that's about it from us for tonight. Look, I know we've been talking at you with a lot of one-way information, so I do apologise for that. But look, does anybody have any questions for us? We've got Kim and me and myself online tonight. So does anyone have any questions from any of the content that we went through, or anything that they just want some more clarification around? Feel free to pop any questions into the chat box, or come off mute if you like. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Hi, Natasha. You got Sharon and Sarah here from the Success Store. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. We just had a question about, we've obviously got 2 weeks to kind of narrow down the focus area, and then sort of the launch of the specific topics. Does that mean in 2 weeks' time there'll be sort of a list of specific project sort of areas at that webinar, or? No,
good question. So with the subject areas, really these are sort of umbrella terms, whether you're really interested in sort of like a leadership focus, a clinical focus, or like a relationship and networking sort of focus. My suggestion would be step one would be to do the reflective exercises and have a look at sort of how your professional development and areas of interest align within these three sort of umbrella terms. And then the next step would be to attend the webinar. Now, at the next webinar, they will go through example topics and provide a little bit more clarity about the resources that you can use to help you be more specific with the topic. We've tried to keep it a bit broad this year so that you can develop a project of something that really interests you, rather than us being really specific and telling you what to do. Does that sort of help? So
yeah. So I think it sort of taking step one and step two, I guess, not wanting to jump the gun, I guess, but it's about sort of if we kind of have narrowed down a focus area. And start to even talk about and think about a specific project, if that can be done ahead of the next webinar, or if it's likely to be narrowed down, or
No, by all means, if you sort of have something in mind, or if you've sort of been thinking about this and already sort of discussed something like that, by all means, you can have those conversations ahead of time. That's absolutely fine. But I still would suggest attending one of those support webinars, just so that you make sure that you're on track. And the topic selection will be something like a Microsoft form again, where you just sort of put in your topic that you've chosen and your project plan, really. So by all means, it's perfectly fine to be having those conversations ahead of those dates. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else on our call have any other questions or want some clarification around any of the stuff that we've talked about tonight?
I've got a quick question, if that's okay.
Oh, I can't can't hear your question. Sorry, you might have to repeat that.
Yeah, just a quick one. It might have been mentioned earlier, but what is the award?
Yeah. So as in the prizes?
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah. So they're going to be gift cards. Okay. So the amount hasn't quite been disclosed just as yet, but they are substantial gift cards that will be going to there are 4 area experts. So for example, supporting business growth, customer focus, personal development focus, and embracing and leading change. And there will be an overall winner as well. So there'll be 5 prizes up for grabs, and they are gift cards of a substantial amount that I will disclose once it's been approved. So there is some incentive in it for you guys as well, because there is a financial incentive for you guys to win these projects.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
No worries. Good question. Has anyone else got a question for me, or for anyone else online tonight? Nee, what was your project prize out of curiosity?
I got a $250 gift card. So
there you go.
Pretty good.
Something like that. I also won my Year 2 project, and I also got a gift card, and I used it to buy my Dyson vacuum cleaner. So it is the gift that keeps on giving. Does anyone else have any other questions for us while you have us online tonight? Okay, well, look, you've all got my email, so feel free, if there are any thoughts or questions that pop up after tonight's webinar, to send me an email if you need. I'm happy to discuss this offline with anybody if there are any follow-up questions, and Kim and myself, we're available to you if you need. So by all means, don't hesitate to get in touch. We're more than happy to help you at any stage of the project if you need any support. So I guess for now, we'll leave it at that. Thank you to everyone for joining us on the webinar tonight. It was really nice to have you all on board, and we really look forward to helping you on the journey over the coming weeks. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks, team. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem, guys.